Starting with news from West Asia, Israel bombed central Beirut in the early hours of Thursday, killing at least 6 people.
And this is after its forces suffered their deadliest day on the Lebanese front in a year of clashes against Hezbollah. Israel said it conducted a precise airstrike on Beirut, targeting a building in central Beirut's Bachora neighborhood, which is close to the Lebanese Parliament and United Nations regional headquarters. The multi-story building housed a Hezbollah-affiliated health center, and this is the first Israeli strike so close to the center of Beirut.
Huge dark cloud of smoke covered Beirut after Israel launched 3 air raids on its suburbs in the third wave of strikes against the Hezbollah in the span of 24 hours.
Apart from that, 3 missiles hit the southern suburb of Dahiyeh, where Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah was killed last week. On Wednesday, the Lebanese Health Ministry said 46 people were killed and 85 others were injured in Israeli strikes across the country. 1,928 people have been killed in Lebanon since IDF and Hezbollah began trading cross-border fire following the October 7th Hamas attacks on Israel last year.
Calling for an immediate ceasefire and initiating the steps that the government has announced its commitment to implement Security Council Resolution number 1701 and sending the Lebanese army to the south of Litani River to carry out its full duties in coordination with the peacekeeping forces in the south in order to protect Lebanon with the continuation of Israeli aggression and ambitions.
Lebanon's Prime Minister Najib Mikati has called for an immediate ceasefire in the region. He also urged to fill a 2-year-long presidential vacuum in Lebanon, electing a consensus president.
On the other front, 3 civilians were killed and 3 were wounded in an Israeli airstrike on Syria's capital Damascus on Wednesday. The Israeli airstrike targeted a residential building in the Meza suburb in western Damascus, which is home to security headquarters and embassies.
Nasrallah's son-in-law Hassan Jafar al-Qasir was also killed in the Israeli attack on the residential building in Damascus.
In South Lebanon, 8 IDF soldiers were killed in ground combat as Israeli forces pushed into the region. Hezbollah said its fighters engaged Israeli military inside Lebanon and destroyed 3 Israeli Merkava tanks with rockets near the border town of Maroun el-Ras.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a condolence video, said that Israel is at the height of a difficult war, which the country will win together.
I would like to send the condolences from the bottom of my heart to the families of our heroes who fell today in Lebanon. May their memory be blessed and they rest in peace. We are at the height of a difficult war against Iran's axis of evil, which wants to destroy us. This will not happen because we will stand together, and with God's help, we will win together.
Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department said about 100 American citizens and family members have left Lebanon on a flight contracted with a commercial airline.
And today, we were able to organize a flight from Beirut to Istanbul to allow other American citizens to leave. It's been a priority for us to enhance the capacity of flights in and out of the region, so we've contracted with additional carriers to facilitate the transport of American citizens.
Furthermore, a charter flight taking British citizens out of Lebanon arrived at Birmingham International Airport on Wednesday. British Foreign Minister David Lammy said that more such flights were planned in the coming days.
For more on this, we're now being joined by Professor James A. Russell. He is an associate professor in the Department of National Security Affairs at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey. So thank you so much for joining us on World DNA. Now, Professor, I want to begin by asking you, we've seen how tensions have gradually escalated, rather exponentially escalated between Israel and Hezbollah. The focus for now seems to have shifted from Hamas and Gaza. That being said, Israel has suffered heavy casualties as well. Do you think this is a pattern that will continue? Do you think this is something Israel should brace itself for as the war on the Lebanon front escalates?
I think this is absolutely the case. I think that the events of today remind us of two regrettable but timeless truisms of war. The first is that no plan survives first contact with the enemy. As the Israeli ground troops discovered this today when they wandered into Lebanon, I'm sure they did lots of planning for this, but did they anticipate everything that they could encounter? The answer is no. And the second lesson, and again a regrettable truism, is that political and military leaders tend to overestimate the impact of bombs and long-term bombardment. Political leaders, I think, and their populations are seduced by the images that we see on our televisions of bombed buildings and flattened blocks and so on and so forth. And we equate that to sort of this idea of victory. And this is not the case. Standoff bombardment has almost never delivered the desired strategic effect, which in this case, I think, from the Israeli perspective, means the defeat of Hezbollah. And this is not going to be achieved through standoff bombardment. It's instead going to be achieved, if it can be achieved, I don't believe the IDF has the capacity to do this, is to overrun the dug-in Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon. And I think this is beyond the capabilities of the IDF.
Professor, you spoke about the IDF's capabilities and its capacity. At this point, there is Hamas in the south, there's Hezbollah in the north. Iran has carried out, the 200 missiles which came from Iran. IRGC has already claimed those. And then you have the off-and-on missiles or drones which come in from the Houthis all the way from Yemen. Has Israel bitten off more than it can chew at this point?
Well, again, the interesting, in a bad kind of way, sense of this is that Israel has embarked upon a standoff strike war against 4 or 5 different adversaries, depending upon how you measure it. And I don't see any strategic effect or strategic result coming from this exchange. What does Israel hope to achieve from a strategic perspective by raining down some missiles in Iran and raining down missiles around the Baghdad airport and doing to Beirut what it's already done in Gaza? And vice versa, the same is true for the other side. It's what can actually be achieved strategically by a few missiles coming from the Houthis and the Iranians firing missiles at Iran. In other words, this is in some respects, again, we have to look back in history, in the 1980s when Iran and Baghdad engaged in what we know as the War of the Cities, in which they lobbed their long-range missiles at one another's capitals for several years to no strategic result. So the point is that this exchange of fire is going to continue until, I guess, the antagonists run out of ammunition or get tired of it. I don't see a strategic result coming from this exchange.
Again, the exchange of fire is not going to reach any kind of peace. If it can happen, it has to happen through dialogue and diplomacy. Of course, peace talks have completely taken the exit at this point, with all sides seeming highly antagonized. But here's hoping that there is some peace, or peace is achieved at the earliest. That's one thing that one can all hope for only. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor. That was Professor James A. Russell joining us from Montreal.
Thank you.